I've been on an eternal quest for the best flashlight that I'm gonna use 99.9% of the time, and I haven't quite found it yet, but I found something that is very, very close. Let's talk about it. If you guys have been following the channel for a long time, you know that we've tested every possible variation of flashlight. We're talking about the ones that you can use as weapons to beat people with, the ones that are so bright that it will fry the eye sockets out of a man's head from 100 yards out. We're talking about the rinky-dink, yuppie, emergency preparedness flashlights, headlamps, first responder flashlights, tactical flashlights, and it's all bullshit. There's definitely a reason to have all those flashlights. But what is the flashlight that you are going to use 99% of the time, and what criteria should it fulfill? I'm looking for something that is, number one, it's gotta be flat, just like the prairies. It's also gotta be lightweight. It has to have an adequate amount of light. It's gotta have that deep carry clip so you can conceal it. And it also shouldn't turn on in your pocket. And like I said, I've been on a quest because, as you guys know, this has been my go-to for the longest time, and quite frankly, it still is. This is the Streamlight Wedge. This checks so many boxes. It's not going to turn on your pocket. It doesn't have proprietary charging. You don't want something that relies on a special cord, that without that cord, you're not going to be able to charge the flashlight. You want something with USB-C or something standardized. This is lightweight, deep carry clip. It has a sufficient amount of light, and it has a toggle as opposed to a button. So there's very limited chances of me turning this on. It's simple. There's basically 2 brightness levels. That's all I need. I don't need strobe, unless it's the weekends. I don't need 50 different gradations of light output. I just need basically a normal mode and a turbo mode. And also you want something that has a nice blend of throw and flood. There's 2 different general types of flashlights: spotlights and floodlights. Spotlights, you're not gonna have a lot of light in your immediate area, but it's going to be able to throw that light a long distance. Floodlights are going to illuminate your immediate surroundings. Generally speaking, people underestimate the importance of a spotlight, I would say. Like if I'm looking down an alleyway in the middle of the night, if my flashlight doesn't have enough flood, I'm not going to be able to see too far down that alley, regardless of how many lumens it is outputting. We're not going to get into the technical things like candela, beam intensity, lux, lumens, and all those different types of distinctions. We're going to keep it simple for this video. Like I said, these are the ideal criteria. What this lacks is, number one, it's just a bit too long. I bet you never heard her say that. No, okay, let's not go there. The other thing that could be improved, so when I put this in my pocket, right, what would be very, very cool is if I could just push a button on top and it would give me some area lighting while I walked around, something hands-free. It's nice if there's a hands-free component. Now, there's certain lights where you can clip it to your hat. You can't do that with this. In order to do that, you need what's called a reversible clip. So which one of these flashlights fulfills that criteria? This is called the Olight Arc Flex. This Olight is rather interesting because it actually does have a reversible clip. So this is what you can do with this kind of light. That adds to its functionality. Okay, some lights will have a magnetized bottom, which this one does. It's the right height, but it's also heavier, and you don't want that. Now, what it does, it has this. Okay, this is the feature that intrigued me because this gets close to what I'm looking for. If I was to put this right here, I could now walk around with that thing on, kind of like the old school Fulton angle head flashlights. Now, that's kind of neat, but it also requires 2 steps. When I go to grab the flashlight, right, I want it to be quick. I just want it to be like easily deployable. Because I can't bend the head that way, right, I have to first pull it out, all right? Then I have to go like this, then I have to go like this. Now that might not seem like a big deal, and maybe it isn't. Maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, but it's still not perfect is what I'm saying. I mean, I should have stopped at proprietary charging. We're gonna have to say that that one is a no-no. This is the Wedge XT. Now, this one is lighter weight, it's smaller, it's very compact. It really does check nearly all the boxes. Maybe just a little bit too small though. You want something that's at least as wide as your hand. But it does check most of the boxes. The problem is it has a button. There's gonna be times when you automatically bump that and you turn it on your pocket. You don't have to worry about that with its big brother. Lumen outputs, 500 lumens. Look, 500, 1000, it doesn't really matter. Anything over 200 lumens is bright enough for EDC. This is actually okay, and I would recommend that for a lot of people's EDC. It does check a lot of the boxes. It's gonna do 90% of what you want. But again, I'm looking for the perfect thing, right? So what about this one? So this is the Royta. I don't know how to pronounce that. Some no-name brand. It's rectangular. It's got a nice deep carry clip, and I think it will even fit in this pocket, but just barely. So it kinda, sorta doesn't really disappear into the pocket. We got a magnet on the back, but why the hell does it have to be so wide and heavy? Now, the cool thing with this flashlight, this thing's in your pocket, or if it's like face down, it's gonna turn off. Some flashlights have a fixed setting, so they have 1 lumen, 30 lumens, 50, 100. This has infinite variability, so you can be 1.023 Xenos paradox amount of lumens, or you can be 100 lumens. You just never know, okay? Which is something I actually don't want. I don't need that kind of functionality in EDC light. Now, what this does have, however, is it does have 2 lights. All right, you see where we're going with this? So I showed you the Olight that had 1 light and an angle head. Now we're stepping it up to 2 lights. If I can figure out how to activate it, of course it's gonna take like 10 moves to activate that one. Okay, there we go, hang on. What do we got? Oh, what do I have to do? Okay, so if I activate once, no. So I don't like this, right? I want 1 button functionality. So some cool features, but still a no-no. What else do we got? Klarus and Nebo. I'm gonna go out on a limb and assume that Nebo copied Klarus, because Klarus is a more well-known brand and Nebo is something I just picked up on Amazon. They look to have very similar designs. Very cool, very thin. This is what I want. I want something that just blends into the pocket, isn't something that's gonna be too cumbersome to carry. The Nebo just has that forward-facing light. So this one, you're barely gonna notice it, but it's not a deep carry clip. Why would you do this? This is blasphemy. This is madness. Now the cool thing about this though is that you can very easily use that as your walk around. You know, if I'm doing stuff, hands-free. If I want to read a book, or if I want to tinker with something in the middle of the night, I can put it on my hat. It's also impractical because who wants to hold a flashlight like this? Now, let's talk about the Klarus. Now the Klarus has the out the front and the functionality of the Nebo, but it fails once again. All right, so this one, it's got the magnet. If I want to use the out the front, I got to go 1, 2, 3. No, 1, 2, 3. No, maybe I hold it down. No, okay, yes, I hold it down. Okay, that's way too much work. Whoa, that's actually kind of neat. Maybe some first responder applications for something like that. Largely unnecessary though, let's face it, for EDC use, unless you're a medic. Now there is one other option. This is an Olight flashlight. You can see it's about as thick as this one, but it seems thicker because it's smaller. You know, it's got a battery in there, so it's a bit more dense. The weight is not distributed throughout your pocket. Now this one's simple. In fact, you could probably use this in conjunction with something like this. Like I've considered carrying both and just having that here as my floodlight, and then I could pull this out, but it has that clamp instead of the clip. So here's what I'm asking. Companies, let's get out a pen and a piece of paper. We want a reversible clip. We want a little tiny light that projects out the front, doesn't have to be crazy lumens, with its own independent button. You take this USB, maybe you move it to the back, no big deal. You keep everything else the same, maybe shorten a little bit. Don't mess with this toggle. Do not replace the toggle with the button. This is the best part, okay? And maybe if you can, make it a little bit thinner. That's all you gotta do. This is the best light to date, the wedge. These are not the only flat flashlights. There's a lot that I didn't review because they just don't check the boxes. Let me know if you have a favorite flat folding flashlight in the comments section below. If you want one of these, get them in the description below. Thanks for watching.
The best way to support this channel is to support yourself by gearing up at CanadianPreparedness.com, where you'll find high-quality survival gear at the best prices, no junk, and no gimmicks. Use discount code PREPPINGGEAR for 10% off. Don't forget, the strong survive, but the prepared thrive. Stay safe.